So about this time last year, I was talking shit about the Game Awards in general and their categories in specific. The recurring problem I find with categories like Best Action Adventure and Best Sim/Strategy is that they're so unspecific you end up having to compare games that are aiming to achieve vastly different things and appeal to vastly different audiences. Look at last year's, they pit Frostpunk 2 against Unicorn Overlord. That's like comparing apples to orifices. Hell, my own top 5 system has a similar problem. I wouldn't say Another Crab's Treasure is objectively a better game than Cryptmaster every day of the week, especially not on days when I'm in a particularly word-puzzly mood. Even games that comfortably fit in the same genre category might march to completely different beats. Prince of Persia Lost Crown and Astrobot are both platformers, but their intentions are very stark. My proposal was to categorize awards based on what feeling or sense the nominations are trying to give the player. Catharsis, fear, joy, melancholy, all of that. So, let's try it out. Be the change you want to see in the world. Here's the very first experimental Yahtzee Cops a Feel Awards. And since we're breaking all the rules, I'm including all the games I played last year, in both fully Ramblomatic and Yahtzee tries. Yeah! Welcome to Loophole Junction, home of the world's largest least edible pretzel. I stress that this isn't simply the prize for hardest game. It's more accurately best game that's just hard enough without making me rage quit. Something that made me feel like I needed to unlock my true power, like an anime character 5 minutes before the episode ends, and which gave me that rush of catharsis when I finally beat the bloody thing. This award I'm giving to 9 Souls, reversing the decision that made Another Crab's Treasure my number 2 game. 9 Souls is the slightly meatier challenge that tested a variety of skills, including combat, platforming, and tolerating small children. The Core Combat Award, the equivalent of the Game Awards Best Action category. Games that just make you feel like you're absolutely kicking the shit out of the enemy and sending the survivors home with lifelong nightmares, prominently featuring your boots and a curb. So from this year, I'd say Angerfoot made a good case for itself. Can't go wrong with any game where you can kill a dude by flattening him against a wall with the door you just kicked off its hinges. But I think at the end of the day, Children of the Sun has to ultimately take the prize. It's like a work simulator, but where your job is being a bullet. The game with the best and most interesting puzzles stroke deduction-based gameplay that wasn't just press all the buttons. Shadows of Doubt went 1.0 this year, but it's still a bit jank and the combat element's a bit annoying. So for a pure intellectual experience, I'm giving it to Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, with which I had some interface issues, but I did like how it's basically Resident Evil with puzzles instead of zombies. This wasn't a great year for heart-wrenching emotional storytelling, at least not from my perspective. It might have been for you, if you have personal trauma associated with Balatro knockoffs. But if we interpret this award as best dramatic character-based storytelling you can actually get invested in, then I suppose I'll give it to Still Wakes the Deep. And that might be a me thing. I'm a parent to young children, just like the protagonist, and I kept thinking about how his kids would be left wondering what happened to him, and why he doesn't come to play with them anymore, and if it's because of something they did. Oh, I made myself sad again. We're in Horrorland now. The best game that really got me on edge and had me flinching at every creak and distant burbling noise. Is this finally where we acknowledge the Silent Hill 2 remake? Not bloody likely. The real progress in horror games for me was made by the Anomaly Hunt genre. We all loved PT, but I was waiting for someone to come up with a core gameplay system that made the most of it and wasn't just generic combat. And that's what Anomaly Hunt does. It naturally creates paranoia and gets you in a good and scrutinous mood for when it's time for the jump scares. So the 10 Bells wins it. Not the only Anomaly Hunt game, but the only one set in a British pub, so fuck it, nationalism clinches it. As I've said before, it's rare to find a game that shoots for straight comedy these days. I think most years you'd be looking for the game where you can make enemy ragdolls fly off with the best comic timing, but happily this year there's a shoe-in winner in the form of Thank Goodness You're Here. Nationalism clinches it again. It's a game that's very funny, very mad, and very British, but I repeat myself. Best game for zoning out with a podcast to forever. Which sounds like damning with faint praise, but this is honestly the kind of game I want to play the most of, frankly. Especially if I've had a long day, I need to keep my hands busy, and I found a new video of someone talking about disgusting murders for an hour and a half. Tempted though I am to give another prize to Pacific Drive, it would be dishonest of me not to finally acknowledge Balatro, the Game Awards Indie Game of the Year. I have very distinct memories of the Adventurers Night Season 4 shoot in Washington DC, and the evenings with 4 or 5 of us lined up on the Airbnb couch all playing Balatro on our respective devices. It was like the world's least productive sweatshop. That's all I've got for right now, and it occurs to me that we might need a few more categories, because I've noticed that not a single one of the games in my fully Ramblomatic top 5 have earned a recognition here today. I think most glaringly we need categories for games that are trying to cover multiple bases. What would Metaphori Fantasio or Indiana Jones and the Great Circle be eligible for, is the question. Best game that made me feel like I was on an epic adventure or something? Let me know if you've got any ideas in the comments. I also think I need a category that covers games with really satisfying traversal, where it's just fun and cathartic to move around the game world. Best game that made me feel the wind in my hair, perhaps. Also, feel free to shoot me down on this, but perhaps we should also have an award for best game that gave me the horn. Oh, come on, we're all adults here, and it would be a big oversight to not acknowledge one of the most popular genres on Steam. Surely any industry needs proper feedback to improve. We can't expect porn games to just magically know what most efficiently gets our bellends flushed. Let's all get over ourselves, go around the room, and each talk about one way porn could be better. I'll start. I hate porn where they keep their shoes on. Makes me think they're not really into it. Like they're planning on throwing on a bathrobe and booking it out the door the instant they hear ice cream van music.
This video is brought to you by New Arc Line, a party-based fantasy CRPG out now in early access. Enter a steampunk world where magic meets technology, humans meet elves, and Harrys meet Sallys. As a fresh-faced resident of the New World, you set out to find a cure for the mysterious Iron Plague that's been, well, plaguing your loved ones. Create your hero and round up a party for adventuring, turn-based tactical fighting, and maybe even love. Time permitting, I'll have what she's having. What kind of hero will you be? Will you curse, debuff, and control your foes as a voodoo shaman, or embrace technology as a diesel punk engineer and snipe the magical abominations with high-powered rifles and trick shots from dual-wielded pistols? The world is your oyster, and oysters are delicious, therefore your world is delicious. New Arc Line is out now in early access, so head on over to the Steam page and start your journey in the New World today.